Hi, I'm Jillian and welcome to the show. I offer spiritual growth for the rebel soul, guiding you through the labyrinth of your own ascension path. This show is for the rebel souls that challenge the status quo, those that crave authenticity in every single aspect of their lives, that desire to embrace their uniqueness, follow their passions, connect to their soul and live according to who they truly are, even if that means having the courage to go against the grain or the norms of society. If that's you, my spiritual soul seeker, rebel warrior, then this is the place for you. On this podcast, we speak about everything from spirituality, sexuality, conscious relationships, business, and literally everything in between. So if that's your jam, then stay tuned. And go on, be a rebel and subscribe. You know you want to. Death is a life-changing experience, but for those of us that are sensitive, empathic, and intuitive, it can have such a much more profound impact on our path and very purpose that you might not even understand yet. So today we're going to talk about shared death experiences, and they're also known as SDEs, which many of you that are on your spiritual path may have already experienced, and you might not even know that this is what's happening. So that's why I want to shed some light on what this phenomena is, how to recognize them, and I'm also going to be sharing my personal experiences of this intense connection to someone passing. So if you've ever felt like this wave of sadness, if you have seen visions, or you just knew in your heart that someone close to you was leaving this life, like before you got the news, before you heard anything, then this episode is for you. Okay, so let's start with the basics. A shared death experience is basically what happens when you sense, when you know, or when you feel a person is passing. Even if you're not in the same room, even if it is a complete accident that you don't know this is happening, it's not someone that's ill, you might not even be in the same country. So just think of it like this, okay? When a person is leaving their body, like when their soul is leaving their soul's energy or that shift in consciousness basically ripples out. And those of us that are highly intuitive, highly sensitive, or empathic, we can feel that. Now, some people do confuse SDEs with NDEs, which are near-death experiences, but they're really different because a near-death experience is when the person actually dies or clinically dies and then comes back. Whereas a shared death experience is basically it's experienced by someone who is still alive, i.e. you, who is connected to the person that is passed or that is passing in some way spiritually, emotionally, or energetically. And that's why most people that have experienced this had some close connection or some tie to the person that they had felt or knew had passed. So I actually did a bit of research for this episode, and some of the most searched questions online about SDEs that you guys have been asking were, what does a shared death experience feel like? Can it happen from far away? And how do I know if I've had one? So let me unpack these. So what does it feel like? Okay, now a shared death experience, it can be totally different for everyone, but I would say most people experience this kind of mix of intense emotion and some kind of spiritual sensation. So you could get a wave of sadness. You could get this rush, a shift of your temperature, the chills, warmth, flooding through your body. You could start seeing flashes of light, hearing whispers or names, or just knowing in your mind or in your heart that something has happened, that someone or has passed or is passing. You just have this innate knowing. And, sometimes it's a combination of all of those psychic clairsenses, because that's how you are interpreting the energy through your clairsenses. So your claircognizance is that deep knowing that something has happened, even though you've got no other way of knowing. Like, you don't know, no one's told you, no one's called you, no one's said that someone has passed, but you just have this deep knowing that something has happened. Then you've got your clairsentience. And this is where you literally start feeling the emotions of the person that's passing. Like I said, it could be this feeling of sadness, this like overwhelming sense of grief out of nowhere. Like, or it could be this sense of like peace, a feeling that feels just bigger than yourself. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. And sometimes it can just feel like there's a presence with you, like this hue or this energy or this presence with you. And that can show up in so many different ways depending on the person. Then you could also experience it through your clairvoyance. This is your psychic sense of seeing. You could see light, you could see a figure or the soul actually leaving the body. And this could be like when you have your eyes closed, it could be visions, it could be random flashes of images, just literally in your mind out of nowhere. It could be in your sleep. You could have dreams that this has happened. If this happens when you are sleeping, you could be visited by that person that's passing, by their soul in your actual dreams. And it could show up really so many different ways. They could tell you that they're passing. They could be saying goodbye. They could be sharing love with you. These are really, really common things through your clairvoyance. Now, then you've got your clairaudience, right? This is your psychic sense of hearing. So this could be what alerts you that someone is passing. So you might hear sounds, like you might hear what sounds like whispers, or you could hear some kind of like melody or music. And you can even hear like a person calling out to you. You can hear your name. You can hear their voice. Or you could literally feel like you could have like a physical reaction in your body. Goosebumps. You could get the shivers. You could start to feel like just super tired out of nowhere. This is all signs that your body is tapping into the energy of death, or the energy of that person that's passing. Like, it's your body and your energy field picking up on the cues of a shift and transition of energy of that person's consciousness, of that person's soul leaving the body. And again, it can happen in so many different ways, just completely depending on who you are, what that relationship is, what needs to awaken in you, and ultimately what your unique psychic gifts are. And then the cool thing is, not that there's like a cool thing about someone passing, but with this experience, when these things happen, there's always a confirmation moment that happens for you. So that confirmation is when you later then learn that your loved one did indeed pass at that exact moment, that you felt those things, you knew those things, you saw those things, you heard those things. When it happened to me, the very first time that this happened to me, that's exactly what happened. We got the call the next morning and we were told the exact time, the exact moment that my best friend had passed, and it was exactly when I'd been feeling and experiencing all the fuckery that I'd been experiencing that night before. Like, it was just pure confirmation and like a wow, what the fuck just happened? Now, another question you guys have been asking is if these can happen from far away. And absolutely, like, honestly, some of the most vivid SDEs happen when you're miles away or even like countries away. Because like, none of this is about distance. It's really just about the energy connection, the bond between souls. The two real profound times this has happened to me. The first, as I said, when I was 19 and my best friend got killed in a horrific accident. I was in another city. I was supposed to be exactly where she was, but I know I was saved from that. Then many years later, when my gran passed, I was on the other side of the world. I was in Australia, she was in Scotland, and both were deeply profound in what I knew, in what I felt, in what I saw, what I heard, and what I experienced. Because like, energy is completely infinite. It has no bounds on physical distance at all. That's why in my work that I do now, that's why I'm able to tap into spirit. That's why I'm able to tap into source. That's why I can tap into energies psychically from anywhere in the world. I do not need to be in physical proximity to you or a person or anything to be able to tune in and receive the information that I'm here to receive. Now, I just briefly scraped on some of my experiences with shared death experiences, but I want to share those in a bit more detail, like, and just to really help you understand the importance of these types of events in my life and on my spiritual journey, and to help you understand why they were so profound and a huge part of your initiation and your journey too. So, as I mentioned, the first one happened when I was 19 years old. So for some context, I was meant to be at a New Year's Eve party in Edinburgh with my friends, literally on New Year's Eve, but something told me not to go. Like, I can't explain it. It was just this horrible, horrible feeling. So I stayed home on New Year's Eve at 19. Unheard of for Gillian. 19-year-old Gillian. Unheard of. So I was in my room, like, alone. My family was all out doing their thing, celebrating. My friends were all in Edinburgh, where I was supposed to be. And I was in my bedroom, in my parents' house at that point. And at night, at midnight specifically, instead of me celebrating, you know, I had it on the TV, but instead of me celebrating, I literally went to the window. I looked out at the night sky in front of me, and I just had this insane feeling of pure, unadulterated grief, sadness, emotion just like flood my whole body. And I started bawling, like crying like a baby. And I had no idea why. I just felt like there's just a huge amount of grief just completely engulfed me. And I just knew like that something had happened. Like, I had no idea at that stage what had happened, but this feeling was so intense. Like, so much so that I switched off my mobile phone, which, as I said, as a 19-year-old Gillian, switching off your mobile phone, I never did. But subconsciously, I remember just feeling like I didn't want to hear the messages that I knew was coming. Like, it was this feeling that I didn't want my friends to call me, because I knew they'd be trying to call me. And something just told me to switch off my phone, because I didn't want to have these incoming calls. Like, that's all I felt. That's all I remember feeling and knowing. Like, you don't want these calls to come through. So I switched off my phone. And the intention was to ignore the calls, basically. And I was just told to go to bed. And then the next morning, I heard the house phone go downstairs. And the minute that phone rang, I ran out of my room, and I was just on the landing, like, just kind of listening in. And my dad answered the phone at that point. And again, I didn't have any idea what exactly had happened. I just knew this visceral experience and this sense of knowing that something had happened. And at first, I thought it was my gran. I just had this like feeling, like this pit in my stomach when my dad answered the phone, and I just knew something bad had happened. Again, I didn't know what it was. I just knew something bad had happened. I thought maybe it was my gran, you know, because she was old. But when my dad came upstairs to meet me, he told me that my best friend Melissa had passed in a freak and actually very traumatic accident. And I would have been there if I'd gone that night. I would have either been in that accident, or I would have witnessed the horrors of that accident. And I knew that I was never meant to be there. I knew that something had saved me, had stopped me from going that night, even though I'd literally spoken to her on the phone a few hours before I turned off my phone, saying, you know, I wish you were here. I'm so sorry that you're not coming. You know, I just made an excuse to my friends of why I wasn't coming. I just said I wasn't feeling well, because like I technically wasn't, but it was a feeling that I couldn't describe. You know, this friend and I, we'd been like sisters since we were 5 years old. And we had such a close and spiritual bond. And in the weeks, the days after she passed, she actually visited me in my dreams, in the reflection in my mirror, and even a balloon that I had in my room that started to like drift towards me in the middle of the night with her whole face on it. Like, I can't explain all these crazy, scary things that happened. And then I would just have these moments where I would just feel her presence next to me and I would hear her voice in my head, and she was just letting me know that she was okay. And the love that I felt, the appreciation that I felt, this inner knowing that she was coming to me and telling me that she was okay, like, was next level. It was just like I had this profound gratitude, like almost like she had chosen me to come to and let me know she was okay. It was just a really profound moment for me, obviously. And it was a profound moment because that was the first experience that fully cracked me the fuck open. That's the moment, really. I mean, I'd had lots of experiences in my childhood, lots of unusual and psychic and intuitive experiences, but that was really the first thing that really cracked me open, that really awakened me to my psychic and mediumship gifts and what that even looked like. So that was my first experience of a shared death experience. And then many years later, in fact, it was probably about 2 or 3 years ago now, my gran passed over. And that gave me a completely different and, let's say, maybe more conscious experience, because obviously at that point I was already doing my psychic and healing work. I was already my spiritual teacher and guide. My gifts were fully online. Like I was immersed in it. I was very, very conscious of in this space. And my gran, she was actually in the hospital, passing in Scotland, and I was here in Australia. And the craziest thing happened, and I've spoken about this in another episode, but as she was in her hospital bed, literally on her last hours, my dad was actually rushed into the same hospital with sepsis because his knee got infected. And anyone that knows about sepsis, like, it's life or death. It's like super serious. And then the moment that my mum told me she was like in room, it was something like she was in room 33, ward 4. And then my dad got put into like ward 33, room 4. Something like that. It was like the opposite of the numbers. I was like, oh fuck, something's up. So I did what I do with my spiritual work. This is the beauty of being able to tap into everything psychically. And I connected to my gran. I connected to her soul. I connected to her higher self. And I was like, what is going on? And I very, very quickly saw a past life where her and my dad had shared, where she had made a past life vow never to leave him again. And as crazy as it sounds, but you're here, so nothing is crazy. She was still tied to that vow. So she was literally unconsciously trying to take him with her as she passed. I know, it's wild, but this is the power that contracts, that vows, that the past life imprints that we have impact us. And not just in life, but in fucking death too. You know, thankfully, through a process that I did, I was able to help her, understand consciously, release, and cross over peacefully without taking my dad's energy with her. You know, and I explained that it wasn't his time, and you know, got her to agree and understand and release the old vow that she'd made. And that was honestly another level of experience for me because, you know, when she passed, I felt this profound sense of love, of peace, of almost like this conclusion, like just this beautiful release. It was almost like this I had this deeper sense of connection to her than I'd ever felt before. And that's because it was a soul connection. And that's because I'd supported her in crossing in the most gentle and loving way. And for her to know that she wasn't alone. And that she actually wasn't alone when she got to the other side, because that was a big thing that came up for her too. And then you know what happened? She passed when my dad was in surgery. And as soon as my dad came out of surgery, he recovered. Of course. Because that tie was gone. That energy that she was siphoning from him when she was crossing, it was untethered. So of course he was able to recover, and of course he was able to regain his energy. It's honestly, like, I talk about these things and I talk about them so normally because this is such a normal part of my life with the work that I do, the things that I've experienced and seen and felt, you know, the things that I've taken my clients through, you know, this is my norm. But I do realize that this is also so fucking profound and magical and huge and beautiful at the same time. And I just want to acknowledge that. And if you've had any of these experiences, I want to acknowledge the profound beauty in all of this for you too. Now, both of these experiences shape me and my path in ways that I can't even describe. And this is why those of you that have had a shared death experience, it is always for a bigger reason. Because these shared death experiences are part of your spiritual initiation. You know, that first experience that I had with my best friend when I was 19, that wave of emotion, that sadness that literally like smashed me in the face, that knowing that something was happening, or knowing that something had just happened, the visions, the dreams, like everything that I was experiencing, that wasn't just grief that my best friend had died. That was a crack in my whole world that completely awakened my psychic and mediumship gifts. That, you know, not till many years later, I would understand what I was here to serve with. This is how I'm meant to serve, through my psychic, mediumship, and healing gifts. Little did I know at that time, of course. You know, all of my abilities to see, to hear, to feel, to sense, to know energy, all of that opened up in that moment. And that is one of the main purposes of an SDE. It is to awaken your own abilities. It's to like awaken you to the reality of the soul, and to show you that life and death are so connected in ways that you probably don't and can't even fully understand yet, because I fucking certainly didn't at that point. And then secondly, some of the bigger purposes for you, if you've experienced one of these, it's about connection. It's about having or knowing that you can meet the dying person on a soul level. Like, you are literally sharing space with them. Even if they're miles away, even if they're in another country. Because again, when my grandma's passing, I could feel her higher self. I knew her vows from her past life. I could see her past life very, very clearly. And I could help her move through to the other side, like with peace, without taking my dad's energy with her. That connection is purpose, like just so purpose driven for me anyway. Because when you hold space for someone's transition like that, and in doing so, you're also holding space for yourself. Like, that connection that I felt with her was beautiful. Like, again, it's just this transcendent type of feeling and experience. And it deepened my connection to her, not her as like a physical being, but to her soul. And that's just pure unconditional love. Because remember, you know, without the physical body holds the ego, holds the personality, holds this, like all of our bullshit. The soul does not. The higher self is just pure, unadulterated, unconditional love. And that level of connection that I felt and I feel for her as I'm even speaking about this is just purely just heart. It's just heart. That's all I can say. It's just heart, heart, heart. Everything in my heart. Yeah. And then again, this is why, like, also when you experience these shared death experiences, it's about healing. It's about emotional clearing. You know, it's like the exchange of energy that you have with this person's soul, you know, it helps them to release, and it also helps you process your own emotions in a really beautiful, sacred way. And they also teach and guide us. Like, every shared death experience carries this wisdom, right? Mine taught me that my intuition was real, that energy is tangible, that love transcends the body. You know, and it's a reminder that you have gifts, you have these psychic gifts, and they're meant to be used. They're meant to be used, they're meant to be developed, and you're meant to use them to guide not just yourself, but others. This is part of your purpose. You know, it's really here to help you also understand the spiritual nature of everything in a much deeper way. You know, deepen your understanding of life and death. You know, they're showing you that even in the hardest moments, you are never alone. You're energetically, you're spiritually, you're always connected to the ones that you love. And that's definitely what happened for me. You know, as I said, those experiences completely shaped the work that I do now. You know, it helped me propel me on this path to develop my gifts. And now I support the next generation of spiritually gifted people to do the same. So, if you've ever had that like sudden, inexplicable wave of grief or joy, you've seen visions, you just knew someone passed before anyone told you, before anyone called you and told you, then that was a shared death experience. And if you've been questioning it, if you've been like, is this been my imagination? If you've had anything, if you resonated with anything that I've just said, it wasn't. It was a shared death experience, and its purpose is profound, and it had a purpose in your life. The purpose was to awaken you to who you truly are, to help you heal, and is going to be part of your path and your trajectory, because you are here to guide, you're here to connect, you're here to heal with your gifts, with all of these experiences. And again, for all of you that are intuitive, sensitive, these are the experiences that your soul has invited you into in order for you to step into your gifts fully, in order for you to hold space, for order you to understand that life, love, gosh, it just doesn't end with the body. It doesn't. So what does this mean for you moving forward? If you felt something like this, if you're like, oh my God, I know this is what I had, then it's because you are here to use your psychic abilities, your intuition, your energy is super attuned, and you are capable of like the deepest soul level spiritual connection. You're here to understand that death isn't the end. It's just merely a transition. That all of our souls are connected across time, across space, across lifetimes. And you have gifts, you have empathy, you have intuition, you have your psychic senses. These are the tools that you are meant to use as part of your soul mission and part of the service that you're here to create in order to help hold space for others, to witness others, to help heal others, to help guide others in the most profound ways, in a way that is so unique to you, your path, your passions, your experiences. And if you want to develop these gifts, if you want to explore these gifts, if you want to really step into your soul purpose, then this is exactly what I do. This is exactly what I develop and teach in the Rebel Psychic School. It's to develop your unique psychic and mediumship gifts, your connection to spirit, your connection to your guides, how to channel, how to read energy, how to understand your soul path and your mission, and how to use your sensitivity to not just serve yourself, but also the others that you're meant to serve in this world. Because that is a part of it. We're here to serve ourselves, but also others. So, my loves, that is it for today. I hope this episode has helped you understand shared death experiences. And I hope it's given you some aha moments. And again, remember that if you've had anything like this, these are the signs. These are the signs that your soul has been asking for. You are ready to awaken your gifts. You're ready to start using them in a most profound way that is so unique to you. And again, if you want more guidance on navigating these types of experiences, then you can follow me for more conversations around your intuition, your psychic gifts, connecting to the unseen, your healing and spiritual journey, and creating spiritual business. And all the ways to work with me are in the show notes below, and I'm sending you so much love. Until next time, keep feeling, keep trusting, keep connecting, because spirit is always with you.